What's going on YouTube? So I want to talk about something pretty near and dear to me, I guess. I always talk about this. I always talk about this with my wife, people that I meet. I'm really gung-ho about really kind of controlling my situation, being the CEO of my own life, creating my own future, things of that nature, right? Just really trying to hone in on who I am and take advantage of our most valuable asset, which is time. But time is also our most detrimental factor on living, because time goes by fast. And sometimes we feel like even in 24 hours within a day, time is never enough. So, I never really thought about what life would be like if I continue to work past 40 years old, age 40. That never really dawned on me. I didn't really know. Up until now, this has been the thinking I've had for the past maybe 11 to 12 years. I think like at 18, 19, I knew that I wanted to start working in my 30s somehow, some way. Yes, I still currently work. I still have a job. I still have to make ends meet. I still have a family. I'm not single, so I can't just, make, $600, $800, $1,000 a month. I have to make enough income to float a family. But my mindset was always, if I do the right things, if I put in enough time, if I stay healthy, if I stay motivated, and ultimately consistent, if I'm willing to change and adapt, still willing to pivot, but at the end of the day, remain consistent in the plan, I should be able to retire at age 40. And what does retirement look like for me? Creating videos and looking to do that for the near future, unless things change, is not necessarily hard to do. I always have something to talk about. Getting into, investing with either mutual funds, stocks. I bought 2 homes, and trying to see how I can make net proceeds from that and pivot from that. Because at least for me, I'm trying to attach myself from ownership. At least in that route with real estate. I want to kind of remove myself from as many liabilities as I can. So just trying to think of different things, while still maintaining, my working self, for the next like 8 to 9 years. How can I pivot immediately to where, by 40 or right before age 30, age 39, I know that in the next couple months I can live off of passive income. I can live off something that I create. So what does that look like, for me? And how can I take that, onward, right, as I get older? I've been in the mindset to where I'm not even looking forward to SSI. I got 30 plus years to, apply for that. I don't know the direction America's fully going. I don't know if I'm gonna see most of it, if any, SSI, so I have to plan on how, I can pivot and make passive income if I'm going to not look forward to working in a job, whether it's I'm a W-2, I'm 1099, I'm working full-time or part-time. My goal is to not base any income, any percentage of my income by or right before 40. And I say 40, right? I'm stuck on the number 40 just because, you usually peak, somewhere between 40 and 50. On the healthier side, it's kind of midlife, right? I'm now limiting myself to only fully remote opportunities. If I was to get another opportunity outside of what I'm doing with work right now, because I am doing, slow travel. So that's for one. So that means I limit my income, which is fine because my overhead or expenses, bills, is now minimized. But that minimizes and that, consolidates opportunities I have for the next couple of years, within the next decade. So I have to be mindful of that. But yeah, when you're entering your 40s, usually you kind of peak, right? You kind of peak. I want to challenge that. I want to be able to peak, kind of at like 50, 60. I want to just kind of increase, my biological clock. So a lot of the reasons why I decided to pivot and leave the States kind of earlier on than maybe other people would, is willing to do, especially with kids, especially being at a younger age and not, getting into my prime with work, I've turned down some opportunities just not to have that feeling of not being in control, even if I'm getting, a high paying salary job. I'm just thinking about the bigger picture. I'm thinking about work-life balance in the present, and I'm thinking about longevity and how my life should look like post-work, right? So that's kind of where my head's at. Like, I just always been like, what can I do? What type of value can I bring people? What kind of services can I bring people? How can I motivate people to do such if that's what their heart is telling them to do? I was never in the military, so I'm not looking forward to any disability or things of that nature. So this is really all from scratch, and this is really all from what I'm trying to create. And so this is really standing on what I believe in, that the world is vast, less is more. And if I hone into any opportunities I have in capturing an audience and providing, a sense of service through speech or through, some sort of development with projects or products, I could hopefully make that something I could lean on for majority of my income while I build up other, basically streams of income. I just feel like there's just too many opportunities in the world to where I can land on something, especially with being able to have a low overhead month to month and year to year. I could be able to get something and stick to something long term, to where I can look at my check from a job and say, if I am tired of working these amount of hours, I don't have to do it anymore. I'm always kind of pre-planning. Like I said, I have another 8 to 9 years to really pivot, but that's always been my goal. I just never looked past age 40. Really after age 40, right, as my kids kind of enter mid and late teens, right? Since I had kids more on the younger side, I want to really focus on my relationship with my wife. I want to focus on my health, as I enter age 40, especially being an African-American male. Another reason why I wanted to pivot from America, just because of all that stress, all that baggage, the mental stress, mental baggage that turns physical, just change everything. I believe that change is powerful. That is just my goal. I just want to focus on health, being in a healthy relationship and being in a healthy mind, body and soul, as I'm at the young age of 40, right? Anything happen in life, not to be morbid, but time is short. So if I could, prevent a lot of stuff and plan appropriately, stay away from a lot of stress, stay away from a lot of toxicity, physically and mentally, then I could preserve my life. I'm just all about life preservation. Because when you maneuver in that, man, life is beautiful, naturally beautiful. So that's something that I am trying to ascertain. So it's like, how do you break these cycles with getting to what you want? And I think it's just being obsessed with it and having a plan behind the plan. You're always at the drawing board, throughout the day, at least mentally. which obviously can be good and bad because you want to live in the moment, but you know the moment is fleeting. So I'm always worried about where I'm going to be at when I'm 60, where I'm going to be at when I'm 50, you know. And that's not worrying about money. That's being healthy, and that's being able to, continue to motivate people who's trying to do the same thing at my age as I get older. I want to look back when I'm 40, look back at this, right? This is self-documentation for me and my family. Like, hey, okay, I stood on business. I said what I was going to say. And, along the lines, it was a plus that people kind of held me accountable. But ultimately, it's planting these seeds, starting now, like, hey, what can I do to pivot and really just free myself from this rat race, I just didn't believe in myself, right? With the opportunities that I've been given in the past, the current opportunities I have now, my goal is not to work after I turn 40. God willing, I can make it to 40. My goal is not to work, so it's just planting those seeds and starting now, right? Just being isolated in a sense to where I'm just tunnel vision, being consistent and changing, knowing when to pivot, knowing when to come out of something, and knowing when to put my head down and get into something. That's just really the goal. How I can matriculate something out of nothing. How can I make something from scratch? How can I make that last? But it's really just about having something that can work for somebody else, and having a little overhead. So having those two formulas should be able to make my pivot sound. So I have some time to make that work. If it can happen earlier, then it can happen earlier, but there's no force to it. Just let things happen naturally. But my goal is just to have more life. So free myself from a standardized work schedule, free myself from having to make a certain amount of money just to live, just to survive to the next check, just to put food on the table. There gotta be more than life to that without having to be rich. I'll look back on this and say, hey, we did it. I like putting aggressive goals and starting out, so this is really for me, and I hope I can motivate people on the way. If you guys are looking to pivot too, then let's pivot together. SD Professional is a company that I started last year. So if you guys want a consultation, check my link out in the bio. If you guys just want somebody to talk to, throw some ideas off of, check my link out in the bio and the description. And let's make it shake. Goal is to pivot, be a CEO of our own life, create our own future. The world is vast, it's our oyster. Less is more, let's free our thoughts. Let's keep pivoting, let's keep maneuvering.